All right, it is the college football playoffs. It is the Final Four. We have got the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and we've got 4 teams left, obviously. We're talking about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Penn State Nittany Lions, the Texas Longhorns, and obviously the Ohio State Buckeyes, who look right now to obviously be the favorites to win the entire thing after dispatching of the Tennessee Volunteers and, of course, the Oregon Ducks. We're going to get into all two. One way to put it. We're going to get into all of these games today for our college football playoffs predictions. Plus, we have the Bahamas Bowl tomorrow. I know I didn't do the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That's my fault. I woke up at 2 o'clock today and I couldn't get this video out in time. That's my fault. Other than that, though, we're going to have the Bahamas Bowl tomorrow on the FCS Championship game between the Montana State Bobcats and, of course, the North Dakota State Bison. So we're going to do the 2 playoff games first, and then we'll do the Bahamas Bowl, and then we'll do the FCS Championship game to close out the video. All right, and folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly college football predictions. Obviously, we're only going to have one more college football video for the rest of the year, obviously, or for this season, and that will be the National Championship game prediction. That will be posted sometime next week. I'll let you know when that one is going up, obviously, and make sure to check out our NFL predictions. We posted this video on New Year's, so go make sure to check that one out. Link is in the description down below. We also have our college basketball best bets on the channel that are daily, as well as our NBA predictions. Okay, let's now get into the college football playoffs, and we start with the Orange Bowl. We've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Penn State Nittany Lions. I like Notre Dame to go to the national championship game. I know, I have hated on Notre Dame the entire season. I completely understand that. Guys, this team is actually pretty good at football, okay? Watching them beat Georgia, obviously, again, Riley Leonard with, 80 passing yards in that football game, but obviously 90 on the ground. I just think Notre Dame is the better football team. Penn State, so far in the postseason, they've had to play SMU, and they got Boise State. No disrespect towards Boise State. I think they were probably the worst team in the postseason. I just think they were. I think, again, and honestly, I'll give credit to Maddox Madsen and what Boise was able to do in that football game, because if you told me Ashton Genty was going to average 3 yards a carry in this football game and have, 30-something carries for 108 yards, I would have told you, okay, this game's going to be a blowout. So credit to Boise for keeping it close. And I know Maddox Madsen threw some interceptions at the end of the football game, but really, again, it wasn't Madsen's fault that they lost. I don't think it was a horrible game that Boise played, but ultimately, again, they were just outmatched in that football game by a better team. Obviously, we're talking about Drew Aller, we're talking about Tyler Warren, and this Penn State squad. I don't think Penn State, though, is going to outmatch Notre Dame. Watching Notre Dame's defense, and I get it, Georgia was playing with the backup quarterback, and that's something I had said time in and time out about that Georgia-Notre Dame game in the Sugar Bowl was, we want to hate on Carson Beck. We want to say how bad Carson Beck has been this season, and I get that. Gunnar Stockton, again, is the backup quarterback, and Gunnar Stockton is not going to have that same impact on this football team that Carson Beck had. So that's why, ultimately, again, I thought that Notre Dame was going to win that one fairly easily, and obviously, again, it got tricky at the end of the football game, but Notre Dame ended up winning that one, and the defense was great. Jeremiah Love obviously left that football game. Will Love be playing this game against Penn State? I don't know. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. And Riley Leonard, man, I mean, may not be the best passer of the football, but running the ball and, just the all-out heart that Riley Leonard puts out there, I mean, you got to give credit to the guy. Leonard played a spectacular football game in the Sugar Bowl. For the Nittany Lions, right, again, Drew Aller, I think, played his best game all season. I think that Fiesta Bowl performance was great. That ball that he threw to Warren in the first quarter, the big touchdown pass as well. I mean, Drew Aller played a really good football game. I just think Notre Dame is better than Penn State. 2 teams that I'll be honest with you, I've picked against a lot this season. I didn't honestly think Penn State was going to get to this spot. And now I don't think the SMU wins, a bad win at all. I think, people were hating on SMU. They're hating on Indiana, which I'll get to in a second. I think SMU is a very good win for Penn State. Again, SMU had opportunities to potentially win that game. Kevin Jennings probably played his worst game of the season. It is what it is. And then when you look at Notre Dame, right? I mean, their road obviously has been a lot tougher than Penn State's. Penn State they got SMU at home, and they got Boise in the Fiesta Bowl. For Notre Dame, they had to play IU at South Bend, and again, it was the closest first-round playoff game. I know, again, Notre Dame was in control that entire game, but Indiana only lost the game by 10 points and lost that game by less of a margin than Georgia lost to Notre Dame. So I think it's time to at least put some respect on the Hoosiers, all right? Just saying, Indiana's going back to the playoffs next season. 11-1, only lost in Eugene, Oregon. They will go to Happy Valley and beat Penn State. Oh, yeah, we're talking about Penn State right now. I'm just saying, I think Indiana can beat Penn State next season. Penn State's going to be a lot worse. I know Aller's going to return, but still. Whatever. I think Notre Dame's path was a lot tougher to get here. I think Notre Dame's beat the better teams. And Notre Dame has been all around, I think, the better football team this season. I understand, again, the Northern Illinois loss, but I think it's time we stop talking about that. It's been so long ago. And Marcus Freeman's got this team playing. And Marcus Freeman, again, I think needs, all the credit in the world for where he's gotten this football team. Hell, that 4th and 1 conversion where they drew Georgia offsides, they line up to punt, obviously. They run the offense on the field. Then, obviously, Georgia runs their defense on the field. Kirby's on the field going crazy. And then Riley Leonard, obviously, draws the offside. I mean, just stuff like that is what makes Marcus Freeman an elite coach in college football. And honestly, one of the better coaches in college football. I'll say that outright. I think Notre Dame wins the football game. I think they're going to be great on defense. I think they're going to find a way to shut down Tyler Warren. I think the run game, obviously, out of Penn State will make an impact, but Notre Dame did a solid job containing Etienne and Cash Jones in the run game, at least for Georgia at points in that football game. And yes, Drew Aller is going to be a much better quarterback than Gunnar Stockton. I think there's no debating that, obviously. I think Aller's a much better guy than Gunnar Stockton is. I just think Notre Dame's going to make, as Notre Dame made Gunnar Stockton look fairly normal, I think they're going to go out here and make Drew Aller fairly normal as well. So I'm taking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think they really get it done on the defensive side of the ball. And Riley Leonard, I don't want to call him a game manager, but Riley Leonard does everything right for Notre Dame, at least in the system, right? I mean, again, picks up big first downs when they need him to. Obviously, that power running game that they go QB blast up the middle or QB draw with Riley Leonard, it works. Riley Leonard is a good quarterback for college football. Obviously, again, if we're going to talk about the National Football League, where will Riley Leonard be? He's likely a 7th round guy. Again, he's a better version. I know they don't play the same, but Sam Hartman went undrafted and went to the Washington Commanders. I think Riley Leonard's probably going to be like a 7th or 6th round pick. Obviously, again, he'll probably see a rise in his draft stock. He's just do I want to call him a better Max Duggan? I don't know. I don't know. Duggan was pretty good in college. Regardless, taking the Fighting Irish to win this football game. We picked them last week to beat Georgia. We're picking them again. I know, again, there's going to be some mention, obviously, and you got to think about it, right? Notre Dame just played on the 2nd. This game's on the 9th. They get a straight week, obviously, turnaround. Penn State played on New Year's Eve. Obviously, again, with the Notre Dame game in New Orleans getting postponed from New Year's to the 2nd, they've got less of a time to turn it around and get to Miami for the Orange Bowl. I don't think it's going to play the biggest factor. It's just 2 days more, 2 days more rest that Penn State got. I think Notre Dame is going to be fine. I'm taking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, a team in the last 15 years that really has not risen to the occasion at all. Hell, throughout my lifetime, Notre Dame hasn't risen to the occasion in big football games. In all fairness, Penn State hasn't either. But I think the Notre Dame Fighting Irish punch their ticket to the national championship game. Marcus Freeman, Riley Leonard, and the guys get it done. I am taking the Irish to go to Miami, Florida, and to the Orange Bowl, and they take down the Penn State Nittany Lions. You look at the spread, -1.5. Just play it outright, or you can take the points as well. We are going with the Irish to win and defeat Penn State. Notre Dame gets it done, and they will take on the winner of the Cotton Bowl, which I think will be Ohio State. Okay, there's not much debating this pick, really. Ohio State has looked like the best team in college football ever since losing to Michigan, and I think you can make the case that Notre Dame has looked like the 2nd best team in college football after their loss to Northern Illinois. I think Ohio State runs right through Texas. I'll be honest with you. I just think they run right through them. You see how they beat Oregon. And obviously, Oregon just got off to a horrible start in that football game. Oregon looked slightly better in the second half, but again, Ohio State was obviously always in control of that football game. Will Howard's done a good job, obviously, and just the Oregon defense completely fell apart. But you got to talk about all these receivers on this Ohio State team, and really, it's just how is Texas going to cover all of these guys? I'll be honest. How is Texas going to cover everyone on this Ohio State team? How are they going to cover Jeremiah Smith? How are they going to cover Emeka as well? Obviously, again, you get Travion Henderson, you get Quinshawn Judkins in the run game. This is the best offense in college football, and ultimately, that's why I want to see Ohio State versus Notre Dame in the national championship game, because right now, the way I see it, the only team in college football that can beat Ohio State, I think, is Notre Dame, which is crazy because I've been kind of hating on Notre Dame all year long, but after watching their last 2 football games, knowing how good Indiana is, knowing, how good Georgia can be, I think, again, a lot of respect has to go towards Notre Dame, and obviously we're giving all the respect in the world to Ohio State, obviously, because of their victory at home in Columbus against Tennessee, because of their victory, obviously, in the Rose Bowl against Oregon. Will Howard's done everything right this past game. Howard had 319 yards in the Oregon game. Obviously, again, you get Jeremiah Smith with 187 receiving yards. Ohio State, again, they look like the best team in college football. Simply put, they just look unstoppable on offense. That's just, they are that good. You look at their opponents, the Texas Longhorns, right? Barely escaped with a victory in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta against Arizona State. Now, Arizona State should have won that football game. Let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. Arizona State should have won, right? You look at potentially, I'm not going to get too far into this one, at least the 4th and 13 touchdown pass. By the way, great play by Quinn Ewers. The Sun Devils send an all-out blitz. Ewers gets the ball out, touchdown, extends the game, and sends it to double overtime for Texas. Again, I think Quinn Ewers played his best game of his collegiate career last week, or in the Peach Bowl. I think it was by far his best game. Look at the stats. 322 yards for Ewers. He played a tremendous football game. I think the interception that he threw, that was just a great play by Arizona State, and I think it was a questionable call to throw the ball in that situation and force Ewers to make a play right there. Again, I think Quinn Ewers played a great football game. I think he did. I haven't been the highest on Quinn Ewers all year long, but I think that was the best game he's played all season. I think he's going to have to play a perfect game, though, to beat Ohio State. Ohio State's defense looked good in the Oregon game. Hell, Oregon couldn't run the football, and that's such a big part of this Texas offense as well. When they are on, now they couldn't really run the ball against Arizona State, but when they are at their best and when, at times during SEC play this season, and hell, even in, their playoff game as well, right? Jaden Blue and Wisner, if those guys can get going, it sets up everything in the football game for Quinn Ewers as well. But Ohio State really made it difficult on Dylan Gabriel. Man, they made Gabriel look really normal. They made that Oregon offense that has been pretty much the best offense all year long in college football. Hell, they beat Ohio State earlier in the season. They made them look mediocre, right? So what are they going to do to Texas? I think they're going to make Texas look fairly mediocre as well. Again, the other situation in the Texas game, I don't even think they should be here. I thought that was targeting. I understand it again. Oh, it's 3rd and 13, about to be 4th and 5. You can't change the trajectory of the game because of a targeting call in that spot. You can't make that call in that situation. Well, the thing about that is, when are you ever going to make the call? If it's against the rules, if it's a penalty, then it's a penalty. You got to make that call, and it's not a sure thing. By the way, the Arizona State would have won the football game from there. That would have got them to the 35-yard line. Obviously, again, considering ASU's kicking situation this year, who knows? But I have a pretty good feeling that Scadaboo and Sam Levitt would have got the football down the field, potentially to set up for either a chipper or potentially a touchdown. So again, I'm not hating on Texas. I just think again they shouldn't really be in this spot. And for the SEC, the big bad SEC. We get to the Final Four. They've got one team in here. You got 2 Big Ten teams, and you get the Irish. Is there any debating who the best conference in college football is now anymore? Hell, Michigan beat Alabama. The Big Ten had 3 teams in the postseason. Sorry, 4 teams. Excuse me. Forget Oregon's in the Big Ten sometimes. Right? This is the best conference in college football, and I think the Buckeyes kind of prove this here. Now, there's a very good chance we get Big Ten versus Big Ten in the national championship game. I think Notre Dame gets Penn State, and of course, if Penn State wins that one, we're going to get a rematch of the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions from earlier this season. Obviously, a game that Ohio State was able to win. We'll see what happens, but I do think Ohio State beats Texas in this football game. I just don't think Texas is able to keep up. Don't think they're able to keep up with the offense of Ohio State. I think, again, Quinn Ewers is going to have to play close to a perfect football game in this one, and that's why I'm taking Ohio State to cover the 6 as well. Again, Texas, for as good as they looked in the Arizona State game, they gave up some huge plays. Scadaboo obviously was doing it all for the Sun Devils in that game, but again, I just don't think they can play that way against Ohio State and win, and honestly cover the 6 points too. I know, again, the game's in Texas. It's in the Cotton Bowl. It's in Dallas. I don't know my Texas geography the best, but from what I can remember, it's about a 2-hour drive from Dallas to Austin. I could be a little bit off, 2.5 maybe, but I don't think it's that far of a trip. Obviously, there are going to be more Longhorn fans in attendance than the Buckeyes. Even though Ohio State has traveled fairly well, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. I think Ohio State goes down there and beats them. I really think they do. I think the Buckeyes are the better football team. Again, Ewers going to have to play a perfect game. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I think, again, the Longhorns defense is going to get absolutely melted by Ohio State. Just the way the Buckeyes are playing right now, man. I mean, it's something about Michigan. I don't know. It's just something about Michigan. They can't beat them right now. right? I mean, we'll see next season, obviously. We'll see if Mikey Keen's the starting quarterback next year for the Wolverines, or if it's Bryce Underwood. Who knows? But I think it'll be Mikey Keen. Hey, Ryan Day's saving his job. Seriously, I mean, this was the only way Ryan Day could save his job, is if they made a deep playoff run. I think regardless of what happens in this football game, I think Day stays. But now, obviously, I mean, I think they're going to easily handle Texas. And I think, again, they're going to be put in a situation in the national championship game, obviously, in Atlanta. I think it's in Atlanta. Where they're going to, obviously, be big favorites against Notre Dame. I think they're going to. I think they'll get like 5.5, 6. Probably 5.5. That'll be my guess. 5.5, maybe 5 will be the line for Ohio State. Again, it's all dependent on how these games go. Again, we have still to see Ohio State play Texas. We got to see Notre Dame play Penn State. But I am taking the two favorites to get out these games. I think the Notre Dame-Penn State game is incredibly close. That's the game I'm most excited for. But this one's going to be fun as well. This is the second game, obviously. I think Notre Dame plays on the 9th. I think this is on the 10th, the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas. Should be a great game, but I'm taking the Buckeyes to get things done. I think Ohio State, again, I think their offense really just outpaces Texas. And I don't think Texas is really able to run the ball effectively. Again, if Sam Leavitt, and I know Leavitt doesn't play like Will Howard does, obviously, but if Leavitt, who, again, wasn't making the best plays with his arm, obviously, but if Scadaboo was able to toast this team, of course, that huge shot that Scadaboo took downfield, the Leavitt pass to Scadaboo as well, if Arizona State was seeing that much success on offense and making that tight of a game against Texas, I think Ohio State should be able to go out there and really just impose their will on the Longhorns. So give me Ohio State. I'm taking the Buckeyes to win the Cotton Bowl in Texas over the Texas Longhorns. Let's go on to our other two games this week, obviously. We start off with the Bahamas Bowl. We've got Buffalo taking on Liberty. I'm taking the Buffalo Bulls. I've been really waiting for this football game. This one is at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, so I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not waking up for it, so hopefully I wake up to more money in my account because we're betting on the Buffalo Bulls. I don't see a world where they lose this football game. This feels like a mismatch to me, guys. When I first saw the bowl schedule, I see this one. I'm like, all right, games shouldn't really be all that close. It just shouldn't. Buffalo is 10 times the team Liberty is. What is Buffalo's flaw? They don't play defense. Okay, what has hurt Liberty this entire season? What has killed Liberty the entire year? They can't score, and they go through so many droughts where they can't move the football. And, who's not playing? Caden Salter, their starting quarterback the last 2 seasons, the guy who took them to the Fiesta Bowl last year. He's not playing. He's obviously now a Colorado Buffalo. Who's playing instead? It will be the sophomore out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We're talking about Ryan Berger, who has never made a start in collegiate football. If I'm not mistaken, he gets the start here in the Bahamas against Buffalo. Buffalo is going to have CJ Akbana, Aljay Henderson, Victor Snow. I have been all over the Buffalo Bulls offense this season. I absolutely love this Buffalo team. They have cashed for us so many times this year. Agbana makes so many plays. Aljay Henderson feels like he's breaking 100 every game in the second half of the season. And this is a Buffalo team that comes into the Bahamas on a 4-game winning streak, a win at Akron, a win at home in overtime against Ball State. They go to Eastern Michigan and win. They beat the Kent State Golden Flashes. And for Liberty, an 8-3 team this year. They had a game canceled due to the hurricane at App State. But this is a team, again, they were expected to be great. They were expected potentially to be the team that, put in a situation that Boise was in to potentially make the playoffs because of their cupcake schedule in this USA. But they lost to Kennesaw State on the road. They lose to Jacksonville State. They lose to Sam Houston. Again, Sam Houston and Jacksonville State, not bad football teams, but they've struggled all year long to move the football. Even in their win over East Carolina, they found themselves in such a big deficit. I think it's really hard for this this Liberty team to consistently win. Again, without Caden Salter, it makes it that much tougher as well. Quinnion Cooley had a great season for Liberty. 1,250 rushing yards, but that's only going to take them so far. And I get it again. Buffalo is a pretty bad defensive football team, but here's the thing. Liberty's not going to be able to keep up in this game, at least offensively, with Buffalo. Buffalo is going to score in almost every single possession they have. The over-under is 50.5 in this game. Guys, I think I'd take the over, but hear me out. I caught myself here. I don't know because Liberty might not score. Liberty might stall out a lot. That's what I'm concerned about on the over here. I'd say take it, but I'd be a little bit concerned about it because I don't know if Liberty's going to be able to keep up. Truly, I think Buffalo absolutely stomps them, guys. The line is -3 for the Bulls. I don't think this is a competitive football game in the slightest. We've been all over Buffalo this season. They have two really great linebackers on this football team as well. They're not bad defensively. Their secondary gets cooked every game. But you got Sean Dolak and you got Red Murdoch, two guys who I believe led the MAC in tackling this season. They were all MAC players. Sean Dolak's a dog playing his last collegiate football game out of West Seneca, New York. And for Red Murdoch as well, I mean, this is a sophomore out of Petersburg, Virginia that's going to continue to ball out for this Buffalo team if he hasn't the portal. I don't think he's at the portal. I think. Regardless, man, I've been all over Buffalo all season long. And again, Buffalo's defense is not the best. Their secondary is not. But again, with these great linebackers in Murdoch, obviously, and Dolak, their run defense is pretty solid. And what does Liberty really only do well offensively? Run the football. It's going to be a really tough game for the Flames to win. I think Buffalo really just steamrolls them here. The MAC is obviously much better than the CUSA. And Liberty's just so unimpressive, trust me. I've watched them play all year long. I faded Liberty a lot. Again, they were an undefeated team last season. They were a team that obviously got killed in the Fiesta Bowl because they had to play Bo Nix in Oregon. But they're just not close to that same team this season. And on top of that, they lose their leader. I know, again, Caden Salter did not have the best season this year. But again, it's the same thing I talked about with Georgia going from Carson Beck to Gunnar Stockton. That is still a heavy drop-off. You get a guy who doesn't really turn the ball over in Caden Salter, wasn't making the best plays this season, but a guy who's not going to turn the ball over in Caden Salter, to a sophomore making his first start in Ryan Berger, who's a sophomore. I just think, again, Buffalo really runs right through this team. I think Buffalo puts up 38 points. The over-under is just if you think Liberty can score 14. I'll say yes. I think I'd take the over at 50.5. I'd take Buffalo to win, and I'd take the Bulls on -3 as well. Give me the Buffalo Bulls here in the Bahamas Bowl against the Liberty Flames. Let's go on now to our final game of the week, and we go to the FCS Championship game, where we have the North Dakota State Bison taking on Montana State. I'm taking the Montana State Bobcats to win this football game. I do think they're the better team, right? They are currently the only undefeated team left in Division I football. They are 15-0. And I get it, their schedule hasn't been, as difficult as what North Dakota State has gone through, at least in the FCS ranks. Montana State has a huge victory this year on the road in Albuquerque against New Mexico, and you know how much I am a fan of that, or I was a fan of that New Mexico team last season, obviously, or this season, obviously. Eli Sanders has gone to USC. Devin Dampier, who I think is going to be an absolute monster and a great NFL player someday. He has gone to the University of Utah. Watch out for the Utes next season, man. They brought a lot of those offensive guys from a very good and talented 5-7 New Mexico team that couldn't play defense, and you put them on Utah. Oh my goodness, that team's going to be good next season. I'm just saying, Utah was piss poor this season. Just wait for Devin Dampier and Utah next season, and my goodness, that team's going to be great. You give them an actual line, you give them a defense. Oh man. Guys, Utah might win the Big 12. Oh, Texas Tech's done really well in the portal, and Arizona State's going to be back. I don't know. I really hope Utah can win the Big 12 next season. I want to see Devin Dampier in big football games, man. That dude is a monster. He's an absolute unit. So that was Montana State's best victory this season, obviously, right? They go on the road to New Mexico, they win. Devin Dampier kept that game close, but Montana State obviously won it. You look at how Montana State got to this spot, obviously, in the FCS playoffs. It's a victory over South Dakota in the semifinals. They're a 14-0 team this season. They beat UT Martin in the postseason. They beat Idaho. They beat South Dakota, and now they get the Bison of North Dakota State. Obviously, again, North Dakota State has probably played the best FCS competition. We're talking about their win in their last game over the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Obviously, a game and a rivalry in the Dakotas of just pure hate. Now, if you want to compare common opponents, right, North Dakota State played South Dakota on the road this year. They lost to the Coyotes, and obviously Montana State beat the Coyotes by 14 points in the playoffs. And we talk about, again, Montana State's big game against an FBS team in the New Mexico Lobos. We got to talk about North Dakota State's big game against an FBS team, and that's against the Colorado Buffaloes, a team, again, I know they played poorly in the Alamo Bowl, but still a team that has the Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter and has a guy who's going to be, at worst, a top 5 pick in Shedeur Sanders, right? The Bison go to Boulder and only lose that game by 5 points. The Bison are good. I mean, this is a very good football team, and the way they're able to beat South Dakota State, that huge drive at the end of the game, led by Cam Miller to score that game-winning touchdown for the Bison, incredible. You got Charmar Brown, who had over 1,100 rushing yards this season. Bryce Lance, their leading receiver, with 946 yards. And for the Montana State Bobcats, obviously they are led by a guy here and Tommy Mellott. Mellott, one of the best FCS quarterbacks, super efficient throwing the football, 29 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2,600 yards, and also he is an incredible runner of the football. Tommy Mellott again, I think he's heading to the draft. He should get a shot somewhere next season. Tommy Mellott, again, an elite quarterback in the FCS, probably the best quarterback in the FCS. Again, 2,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 70% completion rate, and he also ran for 900 yards this season. And they have 2 1,000-yard rushers at the running back position. They've got Scotty Humphrey, and Adam Jones, both those guys. Humphrey with 1,400 rushing yards, Jones 1,100 rushing yards. And, they've got some receivers as well, but it's really that run game that's really going to hurt teams out the Bobcats. This is a good team, man. I mean, they're both, again, very good football teams, but I think Montana State keeps the undefeated season alive. That's what we're going with here. We're going with the Bobcats to remain undefeated and win the FCS championship game. I just think they're the better team, and I think they're more explosive on offense. Again, North Dakota State's got guys too, obviously, but I do think Montana State, again, they are able to hurt you in more ways than one. Again, Mellott's a more than capable thrower of the football. They just don't always go to him in the passing game because, again, he can hurt you with his legs. And obviously that running game as well with Humphrey and company, with Adam Jones as well. They remind me somewhat, obviously they're way better than this team, but it's the comp I immediately look to. And again, if Mellott was a junior, I would say this is where he should be next season. I made the comparison to Holy Cross last year with Matthew Sluka and that team. Obviously, again, Sluka was running for like 300 yards a game at one point, but still. That was a team that could kill you everywhere. And obviously, again, Montana State, this team this year would destroy that Holy Cross Crusaders team from last year. But that's just the comp I make in terms of Tommy Mellott, too. I think he would be a premier FBS quarterback. And I think, again, he would get a spot. Matthew Sluka got the UNLV job last year. I think Tommy Mellott would, I think he could start in a Big Ten school. I don't know entirely where, but I think, again, he would be a guy that could definitely start. Hell, I mean, you could start in the ACC. You look at a team in Cal who needs a quarterback now. You look at some of these squads. I think Tommy Mellott would be a premier guy, but obviously he's doing work here in the Big Sky with Montana State, and they were a great team this season, obviously running the table, huge victories in conference, on the road at Eastern Washington. They go on the road and beat Portland State by 30 points. They beat a very good UC Davis Aggies team on the road by 2 points, beating Montana, obviously the playoff run, UT Martin, Idaho, South Dakota, and again, the Missouri Valley in football is an absolute gauntlet as well, right? North Dakota State playing some very tough teams this season, obviously dispatching of their rivals in the FCS semifinals game against the Jackrabbits, a team that I thought was going to be in the spot personally. I know the game was in Fargo, but I thought South Dakota State was going to win that football game against NDSU, a team, again, North Dakota State, obviously a team that's built a dynasty in FCS football, but South Dakota State has slowly been on their way to doing the same exact thing recently. But again, it just shows you how good these two teams are. This game should be getting national attention. I believe the game is on ESPN. It has to be, right? It better not be on ESPN too. I can check I think it's on ESPN. Because this is just such a good football game, man. It's on ESPN. This is Monday night, January 6th. What a football game. I'm so excited, but give me the Montana State Bobcats to get it done. Again, we like this rushing attack. We like Tommy Mellott. I think Montana State gets it done. They win the game, and also at the same time, they will cover the 3.5 points as well. So, folks, thank y'all for watching our college football predictions here for the college football playoffs. Of course, Final Four with the FCS championship game, and hell, even the Bahamas Bowl between Liberty and Buffalo. If you have not yet, though, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more college football content here on the channel. Obviously, next week we will have our college football championship game prediction. Obviously, whoever it is, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, we'll have that prediction out for you next week. And obviously, you can make sure to join us next year for more weekly college football as well. And also, we have the daily college basketball best bets, the daily NBA predictions, and obviously, we are still doing the NFL predictions all the way to the Super Bowl as well. So, folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.